Alright, let's get started. Sorry. My delay. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari 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 Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Radha Kunja Bihari Radha Kunja Bihari Radhe Jaya Radha Kunja Bihari Radha Kunja Bihari Radhe Jaya Jagannatha Jaya Baladeva Mai Subhadra Jaya Jagannatha Jaya Baladeva Jaya Subhadra Jaya Srinath Ji Jaya Balagopal Jaya Srinath Ji Jaya Giri Govardhan Jaya Srinath Ji Jaya Balagopal Jaya Srinath Ji Jaya Giri Govardhan Jaya Gauranikai 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Siddhanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai Om Vishnupada Paramahamsa Prabhupada Santara Shri Shrimati His Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj ki Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda ki Grantaraj Shrimadbhagavatam ki Gaura Premananda all glories to the Son of the Lord, all glories to the Son of the Lord, all glories to the Son of the Lord, all glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So welcome to ISKCON Detroit, Devasadan Mandir morning program. We are reading from Canto 1, Chapter 7, and today is actually texts 13 and 14, so they're combined. The chapter is entitled, The Son of Drona Punished. So before we start, I'll just say a quick prayer. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayam Namaskritya.
Narayana Namaskritya.
Naram Cheva Narottamam.
Naram Cheva Narottamam.
Devim Sarasatim Vyasam.
Devi Saraswatim Vyasam.
Tato Jayudirye. Nashtapayeshu Bhadreshu.
Nashtaprayeshu Bhagavadeshu.
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya.
Nityam Bhagavad Sevaya.
Bhagavati Uttama Shloke.
Bhagavate Uttama Shloke.
Bhaktir Bhavati Neshtaki.
Bhaktir Bhavati Neshtaki.
Hare Krishna. So, this is a longer verse. Please forgive me. It's stated ahead of time. I have no qualification to actually give such a class or to recite such verses, but by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada and all of you, try to make some progress. And yes, thank you for the opportunity. So we'll try our best. Yadamate Kurova Srinjayanam.
Yadamate Kurova Srinjayanam.
Vireshva to viragatim gateshu.
Vireshvato viragatim gateshu.
Vikodra arvida garda bhimarsha.
Vikodara vitka gadabhimarsha.
Bagnoru dande ditarashtraputre.
Bhagnoru dande dhritarashtraputre.
Brato priyam darur iti sma prashayan.
Bhato priyam dorimiti sma vasyan.
Krishna sutanam swapatam shiramshi.
Krishna Sutanam Shwapatam Shiramshi.
Upaharad vipriyam eva tasya.
Upaharad vipriyameva tasya.
Jugushpisitam karma vigrahan yanti.
Jugupsitam karma vigarhayanti.
So we'll try that again. Yadarmide Kauravashim Jayanam.
Yadavride Kauravashrinjayanam.
Vireshvato viragatim gateshu.
Vireshvato viragatim gateshu.
Vikrodara vrida gadabri bhimarsha.
Vikodara vidka gadabhimarsha.
Bagnoru dande didarashtraputre.
Bhaganoru dande dhritarashtraputre.
Bhartavu priyam dranyur iti sma pashyan.
Bhartu priyam dauriniti sma pasyan.
Krishna Sutanam Swapatam Shriramshi
Krishna Sudanam Swapatam Siramsi
Uparada Vipriyam Evatasya
Upaharat Vipriyamev Tasya
Jugupshitam Karma Vigrahayanti.
Jugupsitam Karma Vigrahanti.
One more time. Yadamride Kauravashina Shri Jayana
Yadamide Kauravasrinjayanam
Vireshvato Giragatim Kateshu
Vireshvato Viragatim Gateshu
Vikrodara Vidya Gadabhishma Marsha
Vikodara Vitta Gadabhimarsha
Bagnoru Dande Titarashtra Putre
Vagnoru Dande Dhritarashtraputre
Bhartavu Priyam Darunir Iti Smapashyan
Vartuhu Priyam Dauriniti Smapasyan
Krishna Sutanama Swapatam Shri Rashmi
Krishna Sutanam Swapatam Sri Yamsi
Upaharad Vipriyam Evatasya
Upaharat Vipriyam Evatasya
Jugupshitam Karma Vigarahayanti.
Jugupsitam Karma Vigarhayanti.
I have one question real quick. Is this real close to y'all, to Hindi?
The writing, the Devanagari writing, is similar alphabet and writing.
I mean,
But the
pronunciation
words-
is similar to Hindi.
Some of the pronunciation words are similar.
Oh, okay.
Hindi comes, I believe, from Sanskrit.
Right.
Sanskrit is the original, like how you have Latin
Uh-huh.
as a root language.
Uh-huh.
Yes, and then from there other languages exist.
Excuse me.
So is that why it's easier for you guys?
It's not easy for me.
Hey, that was my second question.
Yeah, because they all seem to be able to do it, and I'm like, every day it just gets more and more complicated.
No. Well, we can try. We can try together and we'll learn. Anyone would like to repeat this verse? We can try.
Not a
This one has a different tune or melody, so that's why.
Yadamide Kauravasrinjayanam
Yadamide Kauravashinjayana
Vireshvato Viragatim Gateshu
Vireshvato Gibiragatim Gateshu
Vikrodara Vitta Gadabimarsa
Virkrodara Vidava Gadabhimarsha
Bhagnoru Dande Dhritarashtraputre
Bhagnoru Dande Ditarashtraputre
Bhartu Priyam Dauriniti Smapasyan
Bratur Priyam Danur Iti Sma Prashayan
Krishna Sutanam Swapatam Siramshi
Krishna Sutanam Swapatam Shriramshi
Upaharatvi Priyameva Tasya
Upaharad Vipriyam Evatasya
Jugupsitam Karma Vigarhayanti
Jugupshitam Karma Vigrahayante. Okay, we will try. Okay, thank you, Prabhu. So we'll do the word for word. Yada, when, midday, in the battlefield,
In the battlefield,
Gaurava, the party of Dhritarashtra,
party of Dhritarashtra,
Shinjayanam,
Shrinjayana
of the party of the Pandavas,
of the party of the Pandavas,
Vireshu, of the warriors, Ato, thus, Virgatim, destination deserved by the warriors.
the destination deserved by the warriors.
Gateshu,
Gateshu,
being obtained.
Being obtained.
Vikroda, Bhima, the second Pandava.
Bhima, the second Pandava.
Arvida,
Avida,
beaten.
Beaten
Gada,
Gada,
by the club.
by the club.
Abhimrsha,
Avimersha,
lamenting.
Lamenting,
Bhagna,
Bhagna,
broken.
Broken.
Urudande,
Urudande,
spinal cord.
Spinal cord.
Dhritarashtra Putre,
Dhritarashtra Putre,
the son of King Dhritarashtra.
The son of King Dhritarashtra.
Bhartu, of the master.
the Master,
Priyam,
Priyam,
pleasing.
Pleasing.
Doruni, Droni, the son of Dronacharya.
The son of Dronacharya.
Iti,
Iti.
thus.
Thus.
Sma,
Sma.
shall be.
Shall be.
Vashyan,
Pashyam,
seeing.
Sheen.
Krishna,
Krishna,
Draupadi.
Draupadi.
Sutana,
Sutana,
of the sons.
Of the sons.
Swapatam,
Swapatam,
while sleeping.
While sleeping.
Shiramshi,
Shiramshi,
heads. Upaharta,
Upahar,
delivered as a prize.
Delivered as a prize.
Vipriyam,
Vipriyam,
pleasing.
Pleasing.
Eva,
Ava.
like. Tasya,
Tasya,
his.
His,
Jugupshitam,
Jugupsitam,
most heinous.
Most heinous.
Karma, act. Virajahanti. Jai Shri Shri Ramati, Jai Shri Shri Nabhavati, Svatamai, Shri Shnati Putranki, Jai Krishna. Regard, we did that. Disapproving.
Disapproving.
So translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. When the respective warriors of both camps, namely the Kauravas and the Pandavas, were killed on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, and the dead warriors obtained their deserved destination, and when the son of Dhritarashtra fell down lamenting, his spine broken, being beaten by the club of Bhimasena, the son of Dronacharya, Ashwatthama, beheaded the 5 sleeping sons of Draupadi and delivered them as a prize to his master, foolishly thinking that he would be pleased. Duryodhana, however, disapproved of the heinous act and was not pleased at the least. Purport. Transcendental topics of the activities of Lord Sri Krishna in the Shrimadbhagavatam begin from the end of the Battle of Kurukshetra, where the Lord himself spoke about himself in the Bhagavad Gita. Therefore, both the Bhagavad Gita and Shrimadbhagavatam are transcendental topics of Lord Krishna. The Gita is Krishna Katha, or topics of Krishna, because it is spoken by the Lord. And the Bhagavatam is also Krishna Katha, because it is spoken about the Lord. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted everyone to be informed of both Krishna Katha by his order. Lord Krishna Chaitanya is Krishna himself, in the garb of a devotee of Krishna, and therefore the versions of both Lord Krishna and Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are identical. Lord Chaitanya desired that all who are born in India seriously understand such Krishna Katha, and then, after full realization, preach the transcendental message to everyone in all parts of the world. That will bring about the desired peace and prosperity of the stricken world. Jai. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuru Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yukta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagradatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanustute Devi Parnamami Hari Priye Panchakalpa Tarubhyasha Kripa Sindhu Vayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Namo Vishubhadaya Krishnaprastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashata Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. Okay, so reading translation one more time. When the respective warriors of both camps, namely the Kauravas and the Pandavas, were killed on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, and the dead warriors obtained their desired destination, and when the son of Dhritarashtra fell down lamenting, his spine broken, being beat by the club of Bhimasena, the son of Dronacharya, Ashvatthama, beheaded the 5 sleeping sons of Draupadi and delivered them as a prize to his master, foolishly thinking he would be pleased. Duryodhana, however, disapproved of the heinous act and was not pleased at the least. So, Hare Krishna. So, lots to unpack in this particular verse. There's a lot of historical moments that are being spoken of and stuff. And so, Srila Prabhupada, as always so beautifully given us the Shrimadbhagavatam, he also lectured on this particular verse in Vrindavan on September 12th in 1976. So, I'm not qualified to speak, but by the blessings of Srila Prabhupada and his mercy, we can just repeat some of the words that he said. So we will do that. So in this particular verse, he describes duties, clear duties of what a Brahmana is, what a Kshatriya is, and so on. So we should understand our duties. If we're going to do something in life, you need to know what your duties are to do that in life, right? And how to do that in the best way possible, according to the principles of this Vedic philosophy. So, Droni is another name of Dronacharya's son. Dronacharya's son was Ashvatthama, that's his other name. So sometimes you will see different names. Droni is given to him because he's Dronacharya's son. Sometimes, like, with your father's name can end up being kind of like shortened into your nickname kind of thing. So Ashvatthama is also his name. So if you hear him in other pastimes, you know it's the same person. So he was a Brahmana, but he actually took up the profession of a Kshatriya, which actually Srila Prabhupada says that this is degradation, or this is a very degraded position, right? When a Brahmana takes the occupation of a Kshatriya, it is degradation. So this Droni, although he belonged to the Brahmana family and he accepted the profession of a Kshatriya, he degraded so much that he had actually cut off the heads of the 5 sons of Draupadi while they were sleeping. So, many things over here as well too. So he was actually a Brahmana, came from a Brahmana family, but he was taking this position of a Kshatriya, of a warrior. So this is going, what Srila Prabhupada would say as degradation, or going downwards, right? So, now, so much so that even as a Kshatriya, he did not follow the rules. And while the 5 sons of Draupadi were sleeping, the 5 sons of the Pandavas were sleeping, he cut their heads off. So let's hear more about this. So a Kshatriya actually never slains a body when someone is sleeping. As a rule of a warrior, when someone is sleeping, you don't slay them, right? A Kshatriya's business is actually to challenge, right? And if, for example, if another party does not have a weapon, he will actually supply the weapon for a fair fight, right? So because when there's a fight, that is when the decision is made, right? Someone believes in one thing, you believe in another thing, you fight, and then a decision is made. This is taking it down to a very simplistic, simple level. And in those days, when there's a fight, one must die, right? So when the warriors are in the battlefield, so don't think about today's day, because it's very different. Back then, when two warriors faced off, right, one was supposed to die. That is the decision there. When there was a fight between two Kshatriyas, that decision is that one must die. Unless one dies, the fighting will never stop. It will keep going, right? A decision cannot be made. This is called Virgatim. So we read in the verse, Virgatim. If a Kshatriya dies in a fight, he gets promotion to Virgatim. Means that he goes to the heavenly planet, right? He goes to his destination. This was advised by Krishna to Arjuna. So when this Bhagavad Gita was spoken on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, right? Krishna said to Arjuna, like, if you fight, if you're victorious, then you will go and enjoy this kingdom. And if you are killed, then you will go to the heavenly planets. Then where's the loss, right? Both ways you shall gain. Why shall you not fight? This was an advice that was given by Krishna, right? Because Arjuna was confused. So, Virgatim is the destination of the warrior, right? When they fight for righteousness, they go to the heavenly planets. So the purpose and the results of this fighting, right, is also spoken within this verse. So it is here said in this particular verse, in the first line, Yada murde Gaurava Shrinjayanam. In the fight, all the parties who die, they obtain this Virgatim. And most of them, they reach what they call Swarupya. That is described in a different place, but Swarupa means the original spiritual form. Now think about, let's imagine the battlefield of Kurukshetra. There's Krishna, there's Arjuna, there's the side of the Kauravas, and then there's the side of the Pandavas, right? So you have this huge battlefield. All the soldiers or the kings who died on this battlefield, right? At the time of death, who were they seeing? They were seeing Krishna, right? So, seeing Krishna there, because Krishna was there on the battlefield, right? All of them who saw Krishna, they achieved their original supreme form, Swarupa. And those who did not see Krishna on the battlefield, they got promoted to Virgatim, or the heavenly planets. So fighting is not always bad. Excuse me. If it is Dharma Yuddha, right? This Dharma Yuddha is fighting according to the prescribed rules. It's not whimsical fighting, and not following any particular rules. There are rules of warfare. This Dharma Yuddha. So that is what is required, in order for these warriors to reach their particular destinations. That is their game, right? To go to the heavenly planets, or Swarup, to become in your spiritual form. This science, however, to this date is lost, like so many other things, right? There's no such thing now. Actually, Srila Prabhupada describes fighting in these days as hooliganism. That's the word that he used. But vandalism, right? Or gundaism, like thieves kind of fighting, or like there's no proper rules or regulations, right? The kings and rulers these days don't even show up on the battlefield, right? They're sitting in separate areas. Back then, they used to be on the battlefield with their soldiers. So it's a complete different way that was taking place back then than it does these days. These days, sometimes even soldiers don't go out, they have drones flying over, right? And stuff. So it's a whole different rule, right, than what it was in the past. But this is not fighting. Here, fighting is viragatim, is when they get promoted. So there's, just like in sacrifice, right? Back then they had different types of yagnas and sacrifices, right? Different types of fire sacrifices, animal sacrifices. But that was to promote the individual soul to a higher level. It wasn't necessarily for killing or satisfaction of material senses or for enjoyment of any particular sense. So the rules and regulations, if not followed correctly, leads to degradation. But if the rules and regulations that are prescribed within the Vedas is followed correctly, it leads to these positive results, okay, to this promotion. Although we may think, oh my God, everyone's dying and killing and all this kind of stuff, there's a way for it to become more of a promoted situation versus this degradation situation. So this is what Srila Prabhupada was explaining. Then, at last, the fighting between... So then, this is one fight on the battlefield of Kurukshetra that took place between the Kauravas and the Pandavas. Now, there's another fight that's being described, which is between Duryodhana and Bhima. Duryodhana was the eldest son of Dhritarashtra. I don't know how familiar you are with the Mahabharata. So, the Kaurava side, the ruler of the Kaurava side was Dhritarashtra. And his eldest son was Duryodhana. On the Pandava side, the eldest, King Pandu had passed away by this time when the battle took place. So Yudhishthir was the eldest son. And the second eldest son was Bhima. So this fight now is between Duryodhana and Bhima. Duryodhana being the eldest son on the Kaurav side, and the second eldest on the Pandava side is Bhima. So this particular fight was now taking place. And both Duryodhana and Bhima were very expert fighters of the Gada. Gada is a club. Sometimes Balaram doesn't have it today, but sometimes you see Balaram with that long, with the Gada, the club, right? His weapon. So that is the weapon that they both chose to fight with, right? So when they're fighting, also, remember, during this time, Lord Balaram and Lord Krishna were also present. Okay, so when this was happening. And both Krishna and Balaram, they were neutral. They took kind of somewhat of a neutral position. But naturally, Krishna was taking the side of the Pandavas, right? He was naturally the chariot driver of Arjun. He was naturally sympathetic to more of the Pandava side. And Balaram, he did not fight. Krishna did not fight, and Balaram did not fight, right? They stayed neutral in that aspect, although they were a little bit favorable to each side. So Balaram, even though he did not fight, he wanted to avoid, trying to avoid to take over, one party to another. So what did Lord Balaram do? He went to the holy places. He was actually traveling during this battle of Kurukshetra. And he traveled all over India, going to different holy places, one after another, so that when he returned and he saw this fighting going on, he was actually more sympathetic to Duryodhana, right? Why? Because Duryodhana was his disciple. He learned how to fight with the Gada by Lord Balaram. So Lord Balaram was the teacher of Duryodhana. So naturally, he's more sympathetic to his student, right? To Duryodhana. So when the fighting was going on, and just to show Lord Balaram respect when he came into that area, they actually stopped fighting. And these are, right? These are like the respect, the mannerisms, the rules of the engagement of warfare. All these things were so precise back then, right? When like the instructor, the Lord Balaram comes in the presence of the two warriors, they stop fighting. They didn't take like cheap shots at each other, right? During that time and stuff. And they showed respect to Lord Balaram. Everyone became silent. And because the Pandavas knew that Lord Balaram was, so the Pandavas, who are on the other side, right, knew that Balram was sympathetic to Duryodhan, and if he takes the side of Duryodhan, then everything may be spoiled, right? So, because Lord Balram is none different than the Supreme Personality of Godhead too. He is also supreme. He comes from Krishna. So, the Pandavas, everyone became silent during this time when his presence was there. Now, what did Lord Balram do during this time, right? He actually was trying to take this neutral position, right? So he said to Duryodhan, he advised them. He said to Duryodhan, I know you're a great fighter. You have got strength. You have learned. You know the art of fighting. But you are not as strong as Bhima. So Balram knew that he was not as strong as Bhima. And he advised Bhima, my dear Bhima, you've got the strength of 10,000 elephants. Bhima was, these were no ordinary, right, warriors we're talking. So Bhima, you have the strength of 10,000 elephants. Naturally, you're superiorly stronger. So he knows the art. So Duryodhan, because he learned it from Lord Balram, he knew the art of fighting with the Gada better than Bhima. But Bhima was stronger. Okay, so one was better in the art of warfare with the Gada, and one was stronger. So he told Duryodhan, you know the art better, and he told Bhima that you are bodily stronger than Duryodhan. So there'll be no decision, right? You have one with talent and one with strength. So they were pretty equal. The fighting will go on. You won't be able to stop. Because in a warfare, right? Again, when two fighters are fighting, one must die. That's the rule. And because there will be no decision and the fighting will go on unless one is dead, so what is the use of this fight? Nobody will be victorious. The fighting will just keep going, so it's better to stop. So this is the position of Lord Balram during this time, right? So it's a little bit like, okay. So they all remained silent because the Pandavas were there, Krishna was there, right? You had Dronacharya was there, Duryodhan, he was fighting. They were all there. And Lord Balram was there. So they all became silent. Now, silence has its own language, right? When someone is silent. So in this case, silent meant that they did not like this idea, right? And because Bhima, Bhima had very many old grudges against Duryodhan. Because if you think about the Mahabharata, right? Draupadi was insulted in the assembly of the Pandavas and Kauravas, right? So many things had happened during this time, and everyone sat silent. So there were lots of incidents of rivalry. There was a lot of insults that were, and counter insults that were happening between the two parties. There was just so much history that went on. We're not going to go through the whole Mahabharata. So this particular fight was their opportunity to feed that old grudge, right? To fight and let it out, right? You have so much built up, grudge that you just want to let it out. So everyone was determined, like, I must kill, right? I must kill this one. So Duryodhan was determined to kill Bhima, and Bhima was determined to kill Duryodhan. But because of their strength and their skills, it was just going to go on. Like, it could go on forever. So they did not listen to the instructions of Baladev to stop, right? And so what did Baladev do? If they're not going to listen, what does someone do? They just go away. So he left the place and went back to Dwarka. And of course, though, Krishna was still there. Now, Krishna knew how to kill Duryodhan. So this is another story that takes place in Mahabharata. So Duryodhan, his mother, and again, the power of a mother's blessing is unlimited. So by the blessings of his mother, his entire body became, or well, I would say his whole body became iron-like. So like if you take something to like iron and keep whacking it, I mean, it's not gonna break so easily. It was solid, right? And so by Bhima beating Duryodhana over and over again, it's just, you're not gonna break him, right? So this Shrimadbhagavatam is actually a history book, if we think about it. The Puranas are histories. These aren't stories or legends or whatever you want to call it. These were actually events that took place. And so how did Duryodhana become like an iron? How did his body become like iron? This is another story. Today's story did. So the story is that Gandhari is the mother of Duryodhana. And she was actually a very great chaste woman. And her husband was blind. Dhritarashtra was actually blind. So she, in order to be with her husband, she also became blind in the sense that she would wrap like a blindfold over her eyes and stay that way, cover her eyes. But she had power. The chastity of a woman brings great power to a woman, right? These days, this being very chaste is not so popular, I would say. Like, it's better, women want to have a tendency to like try to be out there a little bit more, but not understand that, you know, there's great power in the ability to be a very chaste woman and stuff. And so anyone who sticks to these regulative principles can get very great power. If we follow these regulative principles, there is a sense of energy that is given to us by Krishna, you know, in order to do his things. Whether spiritual or material, there's great power in following these regulative principles. So, a brahmachari also, by his rule, and we hear it so much in Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam, and we can see many examples, even a brahmachari following this path, right, gets very much power. The ability to like preach, the ability to do certain things, they receive this power. So everyone, if we follow these prescribed rules and regulations, automatically you become very powerful, right? Krishna gives you this energy. So Gandhari also had some power, and that since this was her eldest son, all her other sons were killed on the battlefield. And she knew that this war was going to be very, I would say, devastating. So what she did is she advised her son to come naked before her so that she can bless him. She said, "My dear son, tomorrow morning when you come to offer your obeisances to me, you come naked, and I shall see you, and I will solidify you just like iron." So he was like, okay. And he was on his way the next morning to go see his mother, and he obviously was naked, did not have any clothes. But in the middle, before he reached his mother, Krishna came. And Krishna saw him and asked him, "Where are you going? You know, and like this? Why are you dressed? You know, you're not dressed. Where are you going?" He's like, "I'm going to go see my mother." And he's like, "How's that? You're naked. You can't go see your mother. You're a grown man. Put at least something on, like, you know, cover at least something. And this is not good." So he took the instructions of Krishna and he covered his private area, right? And when he went to go see his mother and he saw his mother, she saw that he was not fully naked. And so she was very regretful. She says, "Oh, my dear son, I asked you to come before me naked. Why are you like this?" Right? And he said, "No, Krishna had advised me." And then she began to smile because she realized her attempt was a failure. So Krishna knew, actually. Krishna is all-knowing, right? You can't get away from him. And so he knew that the part that was covered was not going to turn into iron, right? And the other parts will turn into iron in account of Gandharvi seeing her son. So, in this fight, Krishna had hinted to Bhima that you strike here, or the part that was not covered, was not ironized, right? And although it was against the regulative principles, actually, because a warrior, right, you don't kill someone when they're sleeping. You actually don't strike below the waist either. That's against the rules of war, against warfare. And so, but Krishna had advised that unless you transgress this law, you cannot kill him. So he was struck below the waist, and actually he did not die right away, but his waist was actually broken. And therefore, in this verse, it is mentioned that his spinal cord was broken, right? So, but then he did die eventually, and that is also mentioned. This Baganoru Dande, so Uru Danda, so it was broken. The spinal cord was broken, and then eventually he passed. But this is also Krishna's trickery, right? He comes at the right time, at the right place, in the right moment to do the right thing. So having faith in Krishna and understanding this, we can receive so much mercy and blessing. Now, going back to this verse, in this particular line, Bagnoru Dande Didarashta Putre, the last line of that first part. So this Dhritarashtra Putre is Duryodhana. Dhritarashtra is the father, Putre means son. So Dhritarashtra Putre is Duryodhana. And at that time, now that this was taking place, and before Duryodhana passed away, Droni, or Ashwatthama, right, the son of Dronacharya, and Dronacharya was also taught by Duryodhana. So Duryodhana was his kind of master, right? Now, again, Ashwatthama was born in a Brahmana family, but he became a Kshatriya, a servant, right? And we talked about how this is degradation. So a Brahmana cannot become a servant, right? Nobody actually can become a servant. Only the Shudra can become a servant. A Brahmana is not meant to be a servant. This is different from Brahmachari. Okay, so there's Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. These are the four classes, right? So a Brahmana actually is not a servant. They're instruction. They're given, they're the ones who instruct, right? They're given that particular role. And in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, text 42, it states the qualifications of what is a Brahmana. A Brahmana is someone who's peaceful, or peacefulness, self-controlled, austerity, purity, tolerance, honesty, knowledge, wisdom, and religiousness. These are the natural qualities by which the Brahmana works. This is the verse 1842 in Bhagavad Gita. This is the Brahmana's qualification. They will train the brahmacharis and grahasthas. Okay, so brahmacharis and grahasthas, how to become perfect and disciplined, right? These are the qualities that one wants to obtain in order to become a perfect disciple, or a perfect devotee, and have discipline. So the first discipline is truthfulness. So a Brahmana will never speak lies, right? That is their first qualification of a Brahmana. And in this day and time, unfortunately, we're in Kali Yuga. So we try to train people, right? The four principles: no illicit sex, no meat eating, no gambling, no intoxication, because these break these principles of truthfulness and austerity and so forth, purity. So we try to do, we try to teach, we try to take to this process. But in this day in Kali Yuga, many people speak lies, unfortunately, right? It's very difficult. People actually laugh, like, in the sense that, like, what's the wrong with a little white lie? You hear people say things like that and stuff. Now, we try in Krishna consciousness, in this particular institution, we try to teach, do not speak lies, right? Be honest in your dealings with individuals, with people and stuff. But unfortunately, this is the position. So it's very difficult these days to train someone to become a Brahmana, what to speak of becoming a Kshatriya, or what to become a Vaishya or a Sudra, right? It's very, actually all are Shudras. Srila Prabhupada is saying that all of us are Shudras. Therefore, in this particular verse, therefore there's no training that can help. It's very difficult actually to train someone to become purified. And so these statuses of life were different, are actually different statuses of training. So that ultimately that one can become a Brahmana, and when he's fully trained up as a Brahmana, then he transcends this position of a Brahmana and he becomes a Vaishnava, right? So you have the Shudra, you have the Vaishyas, you have the Kshatriya, Brahmana. If everyone becomes trained up, any of these classes can keep going up, right? And as you follow this verse, peacefulness, self-control, austerity, purity, tolerance, if you start working with all of these qualities, right, you can actually transcend the position of a Brahmana and become a Vaishnava. Make sense? Okay. So to become a Vaishnava is not actually easy, especially in this Kali Yuga. One has to come to the stage, though, of Brahmana, and then from Brahmana, you can become a Vaishnava. And this is called Shuddha Sattva, right? Pure goodness. We know the three modes of material nature: goodness, passion, and ignorance. Shuddha Sattva is pure goodness. So when one comes to this Vaishnava stage, he can understand what is Krishna. And just like Krishna, Krishna was actually born of Vasudeva, right? Similarly, when one comes to this stage of Vasudeva, this is Sattvam Vishuddham Vasudev Sabditam. So this Vasudeva means a perfect Vaishnava. Now, do you think Krishna will accept anyone as father? Can you become father of Krishna? Can you become father of Krishna? Can you become mother of Krishna? No, I mean, we may want to, but it's not so easy like that, because he's Adi Purusham. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's the original person, right? So not just anyone can become Krishna's father or mother and stuff like that. So there's a certain qualification that has to be made. There's a certain, so if you look at Vasudeva, right, he was the perfect Vaishnava, right? So therefore, he can become the father of Krishna. Devaki, perfect Vaishnavi, right, can become the mother of Krishna. And this is called Tattvataha. So there's a verse in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7, verse 3, in which it says, out of many thousands among men, one may endeavor for perfection, and of those who achieved perfection, hardly one knows me in truth. So to know Krishna is very, very, it's not so easy. It's very difficult. And so, because it takes out of millions of men, right? Thousands of men, maybe one will know Krishna, who he is. So, but how can we understand Krishna? It is possible, right? Even though it's difficult, it is definitely possible. One can simply understand Krishna by the process of pure devotional service. Okay? If you become a pure devotee, without any contamination, we try to become unalloyed devotees, then Krishna reveals himself. I'm like this, right? He can tell you, he will naturally, sitting in your heart, tell you who he is. You don't need to speculate about who Krishna is. You can understand him. Even a learned scholar, like a Sanskrit scholar, like, not me, but like there's many people who can recite verses, you know? You can recite verses, but if you don't understand, right, you don't get the training, you don't follow the principles, you don't develop these qualifications, right? Then what's the point of your study? So it is possible, it is through the process of this devotional service in which we can understand Krishna. And there's so many examples of that. So there's a saying also, act in a way that Krishna wants to see you, right? Or, did I say that right? Let me see. So we should not want to see Krishna, like, in the sense like, oh, I want to see Krishna, right? Qualify yourself and act in a way that Krishna himself will want to come see you, right? So that is the position that we should take, So we have to wait for this, but at the same time, we cannot speculate who Krishna is, but when we engage our senses in pure devotional service, when we start doing devotional service, slowly, you will see that Krishna is continuously revealing himself to you. You'll start to understand Krishna more. You start to learn about him. You will develop these qualities, right? So it is through this process because it cleanses the heart. It truly cleanses the heart. And the best way to start is by chanting of the holy names. That is devotional service. That is service to Krishna. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, in Madhya Lila 17, 136, it says, therefore material senses cannot appreciate Krishna's holy name, form, qualities, and pastimes. When a conditioned soul is awakened to Krishna consciousness and renders service by using his tongue to chant the Lord's holy name, the taste and the remnants of Lord's food, or prasadam, the tongue is purified, and one gradually comes to understand who Krishna really is. So it's possible. Honor Krishna prasadam, chant his holy name, do some service. Slowly, you will know who Krishna is, and he will reveal it. So the Pandavas were pure devotees, and therefore Krishna took their side, naturally. And they became victorious in the fight, right? And Krishna is always ready to give protection to his devotees. So again, if we have a little faith, we learn to surrender to Krishna, Krishna will give all protection. He will reveal himself, he will give all protection, he will give the reciprocation, this love and peace that we desire as well. And in Bhagavad Gita 9:31, chapter 9, text 31, Krishna says, he quickly becomes righteous and attains lasting peace. O son of Kunti, declare it boldly that my devotee never perishes. Right? Krishna will not let us go then if we just surrender unto him. Right? So this is his protection, and this is the position of a devotee. Right? To follow his instructions, develop these qualities, understand where you are, in these various classes, do your duty, but then give your results to Krishna. So many things that we've learned in Bhagavad Gita, lesson after lesson after lesson, comes out of all these stories of Mahabharata, Bhagavatam, and Bhagavad Gita. So please take the opportunity to study these books. Srila Prabhupada has given us so very beautifully, and we can develop ourselves so that Krishna will come see us. So thank you so much for your patience. I'm sorry, there was a lot of talking in this particular verse, a lot of wonderful things that came from this verse. So if anyone has any questions or comments, or yes, Prabhupada.
So Krishna and Balaram are on opposite sides?
We're opposite, but Balaram, right? There's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They're all knowing. Right? So they knew what was going to happen. Right? They already knew the results of the battlefield.
Right.
They already knew. So, but Balaram was training Duryodhana, right? He came to a point, there's a position, there's also pastimes in which is explained, but Duryodhana learned how to fight. So naturally, a student and a master relationship is developed, right?
All right.
So a teacher is always sympathetic towards their teacher, but he's tried to stay neutral by giving him the instruction, this fight will go on. You stop this fighting. He didn't instruct Duryodhana, fight in this way, fight in that way, even though he's the one who taught Duryodhana to fight. Because he knew that this is not going to work out. Right? And stuff like that. And Krishna, on the other hand, because the Pandavas were so surrendered to Krishna, right? So naturally, Krishna has affection to those that are surrendered, but he's neutral, right? Because everyone is part and parcel of Krishna. So it's a little bit of like understanding, their position, right? Like it's hard to understand Krishna.
No, I understand that.
But he's neutral because everyone's his part and parcel. On the battlefield, whether you were Kaurava or Pandava, you saw Krishna, you got Swarup Rupa, right? The spiritual form. Or Vatirgatam, you went to the heavenly planets, just by fighting in this war. It didn't matter what side you were on.
Okay.
Right? So, neutrality, but at the same time, there's a little bit of sympathy
Right.
towards different sides.
Okay. That
So
makes
they were
sense.
present. Yeah, they were both present. They were both, Krishna even went to the Kauravas, to ask, please, just give them, just even the small, we don't want this war, right? He even went as a peace messenger to the Kauravas. The Kauravas, had their own false ego, and it continued. So,
Okay.
but these are all lessons. This was all set up, this pastime was all set up by Krishna beforehand, right? So
Okay.
that we can learn, right? All of these things that Krishna does is only for our benefit so that we learn. You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
Hopefully that helps.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for
Yeah. Any other questions or thoughts or comments? It's a nice chapter. All chapters are nice, but lots of nice lessons. So, thank you.
Now the story begins.
Huh?
Now the story begins.
Yes. Now the story begins. So, Grantaraj Shrimadbhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.